unnecessary intro song to totally waste your time. So today on the internet, I got lectured to by a 45-year-old man, or maybe I should call him a Peter Pan, named Majik. And what was the lecture, you ask? Well, he lectured to me on the evils of private property. And I wasn't surprised. It wasn't a surprising lecture. It was the exact lecture that I expected to hear from a man, a burning man. He's a burning man named Majik, M-A-J-I-K. No, he's not going to spell magic the way most people do, because that's not magic. I'm doing fingers in front of my face right now. If I had any desire to actually make a nice podcast, I would have sound effects going bling of glitter, you know. This is an everyday type thing in San Francisco, you know. He made some posts. I don't know what it was. I don't know. I have a very short memory for what starts these little debates on the internet, but I think it was probably a Greta thing, since everything's Greta, and I made a comment that maybe science wasn't what he thought it was, and I put a link to some actual scientists who talk about how science isn't ever really settled, you know. Real scientists, world acclaimed kind. But he didn't want to stay on that topic. Instead, he shifted it to me being a landlord. It was interesting how suddenly the topic shifted. You know, he was reading his audience, you know, and he decided that his audience, a very small audience, I looked down his wall, his Facebook page, and, you know, each one of his posts maybe got 1 or 2 likes and maybe a comment if he was lucky. So a very narrow, very small audience, if he has one at all. He felt the need to explain and to give an introduction about who I was. And in this, he introduced me as somebody who had once upon a time made 12. I don't know how he picked the number 12, but I had made 12 awesome photographs years ago and cemented myself in the San Francisco art scene. But since then, I've done nothing but troll. I'm a troll. That's all I do, is I go on the internet and I troll. You know, people don't really even know what troll means. Did you know that trolling is actually a fishing term? It's not the little creepy guy under the bridge. Everybody likes to think it's a creepy guy under the bridge. But the term is actually meant from the fishing term, where you put a lure into the water, you drive slowly with your boat, or you pull it in slowly, hoping that a fish bites. It's not even a negative term. Trolling. Looking for conversation, you might say. You know, looking for debate. Looking for something, you know. Looking for a bite. Throw out the bait, look for a bite. So, yeah, and I had to correct him. He said I bought my apartment, and I had to correct him and say, no, I actually bought my whole building. And then he brought up, as kind of a way to threaten me with his political activism, that he wanted to change the tax laws. You know, he wanted to overthrow Prop 13 so that my property taxes would go up. As if I was supposed to, what was I going to do, pee my pants? You know, when you're dealing with one of these San Francisco toddlers, what these guys are, there's so many of them. They're Peter Pans. This city is rife with grown adults who may have made zero adult decisions in their life. They haven't invested in property, probably mostly no investments in companies or anything. You know, I'm not talking about this new crop of techie people. I'm sure they got their shit together a little bit better. But the old school crop, these 40 plus guys, these DJs, these perpetual DJs, And no offense to DJs, by the way, but every single person in this city is goddamn DJ. With their velvet pants, fur boots. Majik. Majik. So he's giving me a lecture, about the evils of property, as if I've never, as if nobody's ever heard of Karl Marx before. Nobody's ever, he's the first guy to come up with it. And there's been no test cases. We haven't seen Marxism ever employed anywhere. He's given the information for the first time. As if he's going to squeeze a revolution in between raves. I'm going to revolt as soon as I get back from Burning Man. And then I got to go to this other thing in the desert. Oh, yeah, we're going to do mushrooms on the weekend. Oh, and then we got to do some E. Yeah. He's going to revolt. He's going to upend the system and do away with private property. And you know what? He probably could. In San Francisco, it's so common. Guys like him are such a dime a dozen. It's not hard to imagine them doing that. Of course, he doesn't see these things through. Like even rent control. Every city with rent control has what? Drum roll, please. Highest rents in the world. Why? Because it forces the supply to be small. It creates a small supply and a huge demand. The demand doesn't go away with rent control. In fact, it only makes the demand go higher. Why? Because people hoard their low rent controlled places, and therefore they don't have vacancies. And so people hoard. What does hoarding cause? Shortage. He suggested this taxing thing as if it would be a threat to me, like, oh no, oh gosh, what am I gonna do if Majik gets his signs out and changes the laws, I mean, there are a lot of Majiks in this city. Don't get me wrong. There are so many Majiks in San Francisco. Peter Pans, fully grown toddlers. With Peter Pans, and their outfits are like Peter Pan too. That's the thing, is when I say Peter Pan, I'm talking about a person who actually looks like Peter Pan. Little pointy hat, the whole thing, curly boots, pointy ears. Does Peter Pan have pointy ears? Is Peter Pan a boy? I don't know. I don't think Peter Pan is a boy. Why do they call him Peter? Anyway, so they don't think things through. Like, even with this tax thing, it's just like, you know that these taxes would just get passed on to tenants, right? It's not like, oh shit, where am I going to come up with that money? These are the same people that talk about how Amazon didn't pay any taxes last year. It's just like, so? And what if they did? What if they did? Where do you think that money would come from? It would come from you, the goddamn person that's purchasing from Amazon. Costs get distributed. You can raise the taxes on this person, but they're just going to pass it through to the guy on the other end. I don't know how people can't think these simple things through. I mean, I know why they think of these things. When you're a 45-year-old guy and you've intentionally skipped every opportunity to become an adult, you're going to try to make it seem like it's intentional, bro. What was that? Is it saying anything? When the little kids are lecturing, what's his name, about his date, and he's going, yeah, why am I listening to you guys? You're all sitting in the back of a gas station getting drunk on a Saturday night. And they're like, by choice, man. Of course, so Zak Magic has got to, he's going to do everything he can to make it seem like his current state, which I'm guessing, I don't know this person, I've never met him in my life, he added me, I'm guessing he doesn't own anything. He's probably in a really shitty rent control rent-controlled apartment with 4 or 5 other roommates that he can't stand, because they're all vegans and they fight with each other about who's more vegan than the next one. I don't know. Fuck, I can only imagine how shitty that life must be. Probably not even in San Francisco anymore. Let's be honest. He's probably in one of these surrounding cities. He complains about being pushed up, and not only he didn't take the opportunity when he got pushed out of San Francisco to actually buy a piece of land or something somewhere else, but no, he's probably still renting a little piece of he's probably surfing on somebody's couch. Our mutual friends are guys that I knew a long time ago, vagabonds, like intentional vagabonds. Our mutual friends were people who were in a band. I'm not going to name the band, but they prided themselves on being like a roving band of gypsies, And when you're in your 20s, that's kind of cute, like, oh, we're going to ride the trains. We're going to ride the rails. We're going to dress up like hobos and pretend we're Tom Waits, We're going to smoke and drink and, we're going to be all a bunch of little Jack Kerouacs, We're not going to ever adopt any responsibility for ourselves, And that was the crew. Those are the mutual friends. The super Burning Man, dress like a hobo, pretend gypsy, never bring a booze to a party, leave with more than you came with, that kind of thing. I like some of those guys. It was kind of fun to have them around, true life characters, I'm using air quotes, But man, when it goes beyond, all of a sudden you're in your mid-30s, and then you're in your 40s, then you're in your mid-50s, and you're still doing that same shit, It's like, dude, your Bukowski star isn't going to rise, okay? It's not cute anymore. Now you're literally just becoming a burden to society. You are dead weight. But you're not dead. You're allowed. You're loud dead weight. Like I said, it makes sense when you're in your 20s. It makes sense to be making excuses when you're trying to get laid, and you ain't got shit. Your apartment sucks. Your clothes are all borrowed, stuff you found on the playa. It makes sense to say, well, I'm a Marxist, man. It's fucking intentional, man. Come on, private property is evil. Why are you being so stingy, man? This ain't your attitude, man. It's not in harmony with Gaia. Come on. Your energy, man. You're an energy vampire. That's what he called me today. An energy vampire. You can't make that shit up. Oh, that's what it was. That's how it started. I was, just explaining that the way he was. I remembered his post now. Now I remember. The post was that he said he heard some climate deniers talking at a cafe, and he had to get up to move tables because his heart was racing. And I mentioned, well, that's a religious reaction. He said something else about science, like, I can't believe these climate deniers and science something else. And I said, well, you're having a religious reaction. That's not a scientific reaction. That's a religious one. You're calling somebody a denier is like calling them a heretic. You're using religious language. That's not scientific language. Of course, then he called me an energy vampire to double down on the Gaia religious thing, but still claiming that he has the science. That's just a phenomenon that I just can't get over. How many of these zealots are claiming science as their religion? It's a cult. It is a cult, and they're all claiming that it's science. It's not. If you watch scientists, they don't behave anything like these activists and these politicians who are claiming science is in their corner. Real scientists just don't act that way. You put a room of actual scientists together with published papers that are respected in their fields, and you won't get them to agree on anything. I've been watching this channel called Closer to Truth, where this guy just interviews all these philosophers and scientists. And the one thing that is constant is it's no agreement. It's constant debate. No agreement. Agreement on small things, but no settled science on anything. It's wonderful to see them. Almost none of them have any sense of certitude about anything. You ask them a question and they say, well, it could be this, could be this. Like, the people you want to have a conversation with are the people that I do. I think they're the people that most people would be really frustrated about, because most people want a certain answer. They don't want any wiffle waffling. You can't pin down a scientist. A scientist avoids that shit. You try to pin them down, they're like, I don't know, it could be this, could be that. They say this, I can see how this person would, that's the way scientists talk. They use a lot of question marks. They leave a lot of open ends. A lot of room for doubt amongst actual scientists and philosophers. Not that they're the same thing, but they run in the same circles, So when you get these activists, oh God, I'm just getting so tired of political activists claiming science, or even when they claim the philosophy, like this little bozo, he knows nothing, he can't manage his own finances, and he's trying to reference a system to manage the economy, an economic overhaul by Karl Marx, that basically everybody else is thrown out in the last century as a clown. Pretty much everybody agrees that Karl Marx was a clown, and he's still holding on to it. Why? I don't know. It gives him a sense of connection to somebody that he thinks might be smart. If I just reference a scientist, if I name drop, it's not even like they name drop actual scientists either. It's just scientists, a general thing. Well, yeah, which one? Which scientists? Which ones are you talking? Hold on, let me Google. A quick thing. Here you go. Here's an article. This'll do it, boy. This'll show you. Yeah, that's from The Guardian. The Guardian's a political newspaper. It's not a scientific journal. Okay, well, yeah, here's one from NASA. Yeah, you just Googled that. You didn't scroll all the way to the bottom, or you didn't watch it to the end. If you watched it to the end, you would have seen that they acknowledge that there's a debate still going, and that they're presenting a theory. Hell, the whole idea about science is to make predictions and then test them. They know that the predictions are... When a scientist makes a prediction, they're not even hoping it comes true or not. They make it to test it, to see if they can. That's the whole point of combining the math and science, to see if they can work it through. And the predictions are never as good as double-blind testing and all that other kind of stuff, repeatable things. But how do you repeat a theory about the future? All you got to do is... The only thing you can do is wait. And any good, and you really at that point, the thing that you'll find out about religious leaders and scientists is that the good ones stop making predictions very early on in their careers, because they make a couple and then they get embarrassed about them, and then they start pulling back and going, oh, maybe I won't be so loud about my predictions about the future next time, because talk about a really fast way to undermine your credibility. Make about 10 predictions that all fall flat. Be wrong 10 times in a row. See how long your colleagues are going to keep inviting you to the barbecue. Well, they might. They'll still invite you, but they'll all talk shit about you in the other room. I don't know. I'm acting like I hang out with scientists. I don't hang out with anybody. I hang out with YouTube a lot, though. That's why I'm so goddamn smart. Anyway, so what was this podcast about? I think it was about Peter Pans. I think it was about San Francisco and Peter Pan syndrome. I think I'll call it Peter Pan. That's what I'll put on it. Peter Pan. Peter goddamn motherfucking Pan. Flying around in Never Land. Just growing up being an adult. You know, it's so sad, too, because I watch these people. I've got offspring, and she lives in San Francisco, and I see her meeting these Peter Pan men that just have, they've got nothing going for them. And you know what? Listen, I'm not talking shit about artists and whatever, and I get it. It's not like you have to be, I'm not saying you have to have a fancy car. I'm not saying you have to have a fancy house. But dude, when you've got nothing, when you're 45 and you've made absolutely zero good decisions in your life and you literally just become a burden to your fellow taxpayer, you know, I'm sorry. It's just like, you don't get to be taken seriously. You just don't. You've got to get your shit together. You've got to at least try. No, dude, that's the problem. Burning Man. Life's about living on the playa. These are the same guys that cry about not being able to get playa tickets late. And they miss them, and then they have to campaign to start a GoFundMe to get them Burning Man tickets. I've seen this. People doing GoFundMe to get their Burning Man tickets. Life in San Francisco has been a weird motherfucking 22 years. I am telling you. And most of the people I've known here don't live here anymore. It's true. Most of the people I've met that I have liked here have moved on. But a lot of them that have remained, it's just like, ouch. Hurts my eyeballs to watch them. You know? Oh God, you don't want to rub it in. I don't want to rub it in. I don't want to rub it in. I don't want to tell a 45-year-old man that made terrible decisions in his life that he's made terrible decisions in his life. But what are you supposed to do? You know, what are you supposed to do when they're coming after you? You know, what are you supposed to do when they call you evil for having made basic life choices? These are basic life choices, man. Like basic adult choices, like you rent a couple times and you buy a piece of property. You know, that's the way most of the country's raised. You know, you invest, you make some investments, you plan for your future a little bit, just a small bit. You don't need to make big, huge plans, but just some little plans, just so that you aren't, you know, a whiny ass fucking Peter Pan named Majik at 45, worshiping a child oracle and getting high blood pressure when you hear a climate denier. You know what I mean? I just had to, oh my God, my heart was racing. I had to move my table. Oh, I just couldn't do it. I almost fainted hearing somebody that had a different idea about climate model predictions. You know, somebody who didn't belong to my religion. Yeah, well, boy, Magic, that sounds tough, you know. I'm surprised you made it through it. You know, how did you make it through? Magic! I made it through because of magic. That's Mother Gaia. Yeah? Is that what's going to get you through your retirement age? Magic? Yes, magic will do it. I didn't need to plan for my life. I'm Magic. Majik. Magic. Well, okay. Good luck with that, Magic. It's really nice talking to you. You seem like a really good guy. You have fun out there on the playa. You drive safe. I know you don't drive, but, you know, get a ride with someone who drives safely. Okay, Magic? Thanks for listening.